Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. My name is Amar Singh. This is my very first podcast. And before we get into the conversation with Dr. Vivian Bizios, my naturopathic doctor, just a couple of things. Number one, I will not be giving you medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I will not be giving you any legal advice or financial advice. I'm not a professional at any of those things. I will just be sharing my opinion. I'm excited for you guys to hear about my journey and to hear what Dr. Vivian Bizios has to say about naturopathic medicine. This is just an introductory conversation. Now, a couple of things about naturopathic medicine. It's based on a few axioms, including the human body wants to be in equilibrium and wants to be healthy. Number two, let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food, as postulated by Hypocrates. I honestly believe that I can eat my way out of any disease, anything that comes my way. I know how to eat. I know how to treat my body, and I know what to do when things come my way. Now, there are things, unfortunately, that I cannot control. I just recently pulled my back muscle doing CrossFit. And so I'm able to eat food to lessen the pain. But unfortunately, things like that, when it comes to a structural issue from working out, I cannot control that. But when it comes to a disease or infection or anything like that, I certainly know how to deal with it. And it's my opinion that you can eat your way out of anything. Number three, like attracts like. Unlike traditional medicine, which fights the body, naturopathic medicine does not. Number four, every person is unique and should be treated as such. In fact, that's probably the most important part of naturopathic medicine. Everyone is treated differently based on your blood type, based on your diet, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited for you guys to come on board. Now, the main reason why I decided to ultimately do this podcast, because I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I always had a million reasons, including who's going to listen to me? Besides my mom and me, who wants to hear what I have to say? And quite honestly, I don't even know if my mom wants to hear from me. But the main reason I decided to jump on board, I wanted another medium to promote a nut business we're just starting. This company is called Nuts Royale. We just started it. You can get more information on our website at www.nutsroyale.com. The website should be up and running in a couple of weeks. But these nuts are absolutely delicious. They are sprouted, which means they've been soaked and then they've been dehydrated at a low temperature. And we've added some amazing flavors like banana walnut bread. Absolutely delicious. There's no phytic acid because of the sprouting process, and it's still raw. Because when we dehydrate it at a low temperature. And man, these are absolutely tasty, and the ingredients are all organic and all natural. So if you get a chance, stop by the website. Hopefully it'll be up and running in the next few weeks. And I really appreciate you guys coming by. So if you guys are ready, let's get the party on the road. Thanks for being here. When I saw you last time with my, did the consultation with my wife, you probably had it up. And I hadn't seen you in like, 15 years or 14 years prior.
Oh, it's so crazy.
Yeah, so how's everything?
Pretty good. Yeah. A lot of home time, which is good with the kids and the family.
That's right.
Working. I'm happy to always come in here because I can see people if they come in. Yeah, it's good.
Are you at the office right now, or are you at home?
I'm at the office.
Okay.
Because I wasn't sure if I'd get, good quiet here, over there.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because you got like 10 kids now.
No, I have 3. one more than you. And, no, because like there's a lot of people on the Wi-Fi signal. You never know what happens with video too, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. didn't want to risk it.
Yeah, got you. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to talking to me here today. I'm so excited to do this, and this is new for me as well, doing this podcast thing. But I've got so many friends that ask me questions about naturopathic medicine, and and I've got some other interests, and also I'm curious. I'm curious about a lot of things. And so it's a perfect fit for me. And we're locked down anyway. What else am I going to do with my time?
That's amazing. No, honestly, like I find that so many people are getting so creative right now. Everybody's got a side hustle. Everyone's doing something that they maybe always wanted to do but didn't have the time before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's time for us to evolve. When something like this happens, you come face to face with yourself, and you have to make a decision. What are you going to do, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so I've got a bunch of questions. I sent you some as well, but it's going to go where it's going to go. And if I ask anything that's not appropriate, we spoke about this. Just stop me in my tracks.
I got to follow the rule.
No, I hear you. I totally. I hear you. It's a crazy world we live in, and but anyway, first of all, you know what? I want people to know how we met and how I felt about naturopathic medicine. I think it's important because, it was, I guess, about 19 years ago, I met you at Roxy Blue, the nightclub I used to own, and you were standing at the bar in the patio all by yourself, and it was like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And you were all by yourself. And I saw you there. I came up and started talking to you, and I asked you, anyway, after a few minutes, I asked you what you did for a living. And you said, I'm a doctor. And he said, oh, what kind of doctor? And you said, naturopathic doctor. Now, in my head, prior to that moment, I was just like, oh, geez. A voodoo doctor. That's the first thing that went. And the reason for that, I had an experience with a naturopathic doctor 13 years before. There was a girl I was dating, and she was a Jehovah's Witness. Mm-hmm. And she sent me to go see this naturopathic doctor. I can't remember what it was for. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work. So on that one experience, right? And the fact, it was coming from her. I have a uncle who's a Jehovah's Witness, right? So I made all kinds of assumptions and decided that no, naturopathic medicine is weird and so on. But I took your card, and I called you for something that I didn't think you would be able to do. And I was really skeptical, but I was at my wits. And I don't know if you remember this, but I had called you because my eustachian tube was plugged up. Mm-hmm. And I was going to be going for my third surgery. I went twice already, and they couldn't tell me why. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm not anti-Western medicine at all. Like, when I have a headache, I'm reaching for an aspirin. Yeah. Right. But I think they can coexist. And especially if you understand, right, you need both, as far as I'm concerned. Right. If I have a broken bone or a big gash, on my leg, I'm not coming to you. I'm going to go to a Western doctor.
Please don't come to me.
Right.
I wouldn't come to me either.
That's right. And so I called you up because I was getting vertigo, and every time I would have my eustachian tube plugged up, it was depressing. I would be a victim and start, saying, poor me, why is this happening? Mm-hmm. And all this stuff. And, I reached for your card and I looked at it. I'm going, I don't know if Vivian can do anything here for me, but, she was a nice girl, and, we had a great chat, and, blah, blah, blah. So I called you up and I said, Vivian, listen, this might be out of your league, but I'm at my wit's end. My eustachian tube is plugged up. I have to wait 3 months to get a surgery I don't want, right? Which is, they puncture your eardrum, and then you got to put a cotton wool with Vaseline in your ear every time you take a shower. Mm-hmm. So I came to your place, to your office, and you said, I'm going to do some acupuncture in my head, I'm going, oh my God, here we go, acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, you put your finger on my wrist, and then you said, you know what, Amar, you've got to take care of your liver. You've got some liver issues. And I'm thinking to myself, no shit, Sherlock, I'm a nightclub owner. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going,
Good, I like that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I got to pay for this shit. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I said, whatever, I'm here now, and she's a nice girl. I kept going back to that. And I laid down, and, you put these needles in me. And I remember when you put the needles in me, I tried to wiggle my toe, and I felt this weirdness. Shock. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that, from a needle being in my body, these tiny little, that it doesn't even, you don't draw blood. It goes, it doesn't go that far in. So right then and there, my mind started to shift, and I'm going, okay, I better stay calm here and see what's going to happen. At the end of the visit, you said, okay, Amar, take these pulsatilla homeopathic pellets, go buy it downstairs, and that'll be $185. And I'm thinking to myself,
you remember the price?
Well, approximately. It was I knew it was significant enough, right? Because, coming from, always going to a traditional doctor, you don't pay for anything here in Canada. It's all covered by, the government. And so I went down, I got the homeopathic pellets, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, well, in 3 months I'll go and I'll get get it done again. And I got the pellets. You told me to put 5 under my tongue, and I'm going, yeah, whatever. I tried this shit before 14 years ago. It didn't work, I started driving home, and as I'm driving home, and I've never shared a story with you. So this,
you have it.
Yeah. As I'm driving home, I'm turning the volume on my radio lower and lower, but I'm not realizing what was happening. I kept turning it lower and lower. Vivian, by the time I got home, which at the time I lived on Queen's Quay, right by the lake there. So it was only like 15-minute drive. By the time I got home, I was completely, fine. My hearing was 100%. So all the fluids had drained. And I was just like, oh my God, what the fuck? Right? Excuse my language.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, right? And I called you up, and you were so humble. I said to you, Vivian, what the fuck did you do? And you went, Amar, she goes, calm down. She goes, it might come down, right? It might come back again. And I said, Vivian, I don't care. The fact that you were able to do this, which every time I would go, I would have to wait, and it would, go through this traumatic experience. Yeah. And you said, Amar, she goes, it might come back, but remember what I told you. Milk is not good for you, right? Because I had told you during the interview process that I eat dairy, 1 scoop of ice cream a night. In my world, I don't drink milk. I don't eat cereal. I didn't think that was a big deal. And you said, for your blood type O, you need to be aware of that. So all this stuff was brand new. Blood type, like what does blood type have to do? Because, you're programmed a certain way your whole life. And when someone tells you this, and I was in my, I think, mid-30s at the time, right? When someone tells you this stuff, it's shocking. Weird. Yeah, it's shocking, right? But I followed your advice. I kept pulsatilla, and to this day I have pulsatilla right next to my my night table, in fact, because if I go out and I have a glass of wine, sometimes I'll feel phlegm come in, or if I have too much sugar, I'll feel the phlegm. I put that pulsatilla, I'm able to get a better night's sleep versus being stuffed up and so on and so forth. And so that experience, Vivian, changed my whole life. And that's why when I sent you this email, right? And it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't health-wise though. I started questioning everything in life, everything, right? And I mean everything. If someone, like, I've got some crazy friends that are convinced the world is flat. And I don't, kill them off. I'm like, well, that's a little strange, and I can't prove otherwise. But if you give me a spaceship, I'll prove you wrong. But until then, you believe what you want to believe, right? And that's my attitude now, right? I'm not going to kill off anything like I did with naturopathic medicine. So that's what started me on my journey. So now I want to hear from you. Like, how the heck did you get into naturopathic medicine?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I think my story is very similar to yours in that I was seeking out healthcare for a condition. I had a lot of acne as a teenager. And I would go over and over again to the dermatologist, and I would lie there, and they would pop all my pimples, and then they would inject cortisone, and then I walk out looking worse than what I came, but my problem didn't go away. So one of the prescriptions that they gave me was long-term antibiotics. And I was 15, 16, didn't think anything of it, started to take the antibiotics. I went on for 6 months, felt fine. My acne, did it really improve? Not really. So I said, I'm gonna leave it for now and see what happens. After 6 months, my whole gut was probably all over the place. It was a mess. Although I didn't fully understand it at that point. And my acne was continual, right? There was no change. I had my brother who was, he's kind of an inquisitive soul, and he finds a lot of great things and gives everything a chance. And he was researching different medical programs. Now he's a dentist. But one of the things he was researching was naturopathic medicine. He said, you know what, you should go try this. And at that point, naturopathic medicine was being practiced. It was a very small school with a class of maybe 15 people. Most of them were already chiropractors, and now they're kind of bringing back the art of naturopathic medicine, which is like herbs, homeopathy, Chinese medicine, and kind of combining everything when you need it most. So they had a little school in the West End, in an elementary school. They had their school where they were just educating the 15 people every year, and an on-site clinic. And I went and I became a patient. And for the first time, somebody told me that your diet could be part of what's causing your skin condition. And I was in utter shock. I'm like, nobody, I went to so many doctors. Nobody's ever said that to me. I said, there's just no way. But then they explained it to me. That your liver is, a main detox organ. And a lot of the things that build up on your skin are kind of a sign that your liver is kind of slowing down a bit, or, isn't functional as well as it should be. Not that it was clinical, but I did have a blood reading for many years, a high bilirubin, but my doctor said it was benign, absolutely nothing. So I guess they already made the connection just by knowing what I had and checking my pulses, my Chinese pulses, and taking my case. So they told me, you got to start on some bitters and some foods that are really good for the liver, right? So dandelion, beets. They told me to cut down sugar. They asked me to go on what's called back in those days, they called it the Candida diet, but it's pretty much a diet to help balance your bacteria in your gut.
Gotcha.
And from there, I started to see improvement. And from there, I got interested in nutrition, which is what I did in my undergrad. And after that, while I was in nutrition, I fell in love with human physiology. And I said, no, I got to do some kind of medicine. And then when I looked at the curriculum of naturopathic medicine, it kind of checked off all the things that I was most interested in. And then that's kind of how I ended up as a naturopath.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what's your routine like as a naturopath? Because, and this is a rhetorical question, because a lot of the things you suggested to me, I'm sure you do, lemon water, when I wake up. In fact, the first thing I do, I have half a liter of water. And then thank God I have my wife who likes lemon water. She makes it, and I always say, hey, leave a little bit for me. And probiotics, like that was the one thing you said to me was because I had asked you, and like I said, I've always been curious, and I want to do what, my mentors, in this case, I consider you a health mentor, what they're doing. And you said to me that, you take probiotics and you will take that for the rest of your life, right? So what are some of yours that you do morning, during the day, at night for good health and longevity?
Great question. I mean, it's definitely evolved over the years because I've learned a lot from my patients. And I think a lot of the basics that you brought up still remain true, right? Like, why do we do lemon water in the morning? Because it kickstarts our digestion. It gets our liver moving, which is our main detox organ, so we can clean everything out. Why do we do probiotics or anything to do with gut health? Because the majority of disease starts in the gut. And I've seen that for the past 20 years, that all I keep treating is gut, liver, and then I evolve from there. Then we can get deeper. But these are such common concerns for people, common threads in terms of pathology and why people are sick, that it's very important to address them. So for me, yeah, I love the lemon water. I love herbal teas. I usually start my day off with fruit. It's really hard, I find, for patients in general, including myself, to get enough fruits and vegetables in the diet. That's probably one of the hardest things for patients. Most people will struggle with that. And we know from Canada's Food Guide that actually was revamped in 2019, and it was actually a naturopathic doctor who revamped it, which is quite amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nobody knows that, though, because he has a PhD in genetics.
Okay.
So he's but it's amazing because there's a lot of great pearls that he's incorporated. And the new food guide is pretty much a very naturopathic way of eating. You look at your plate and it's 50% is fruits and vegetables, and a quarter is going to be plant-based protein, and a quarter is going to be grains, whole grains.
Wow.
Right? Very clean way of eating. There's less emphasis now on dairy, less emphasis on meat. Not that they're bad, but there's less emphasis. And why? Why did they decide on this diet for Canada's Food Guide? And not just Canada's Food Guide, but why have I been telling my patients and encouraging them to eat like this for the past 20 years? Well, a lot of it's backed on research. They looked at all the data that they could find on chronic disease in Canada. Like, chronic disease would be pretty much cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, right? Those are the big plagues of Canadians and North Americans. Mm-hmm. They looked at all the data all over the world and in Canada, and they tried to determine what foods would decrease your risk of any of those 4 chronic diseases. And what they found out was that it was pretty much fruits and vegetables. And why? Because they're packed with phytonutrients like antioxidants. Everything that heals you is in a fruit and a vegetable. Minerals, vitamins. That's what kind of kickstarts the machinery of all your cells, gets all of your detox pathways moving. It is the foundation of good health. So bringing you back, what do I have for breakfast? Because fruits and vegetables are so tough, but we so desperately need them, I try to start my day with fruit. So it depends what's in season. I'll cut a big plate with different types of fruit, lots of color. Color is key because you're getting the variety of all your antioxidants and phytonutrients. And then I'll usually put a little bit of protein or fat with some grain. So it depends. I've evolved through not doing any breads to now going back to whole grains and having a slice of toast with avocado on top, or I'll do olives, or I'll do hummus. I'll do a nut butter, tahini, honey. So it depends, right? I'll do oatmeal. I'm looking for a bit of whole grain. I like to put a bit of protein. You can use nuts and seeds, which is what I do, flaxseed, walnuts, almonds, and I'll mix that together with hemp seeds in a bowl of oatmeal. And then I'll always have it with fruit. Then I'll move on to lunch. Lunch and dinner kind of overlap. So I try to get my beans and my lentils in there because all of that is packed with fiber, really high fiber and great minerals. So you need the fiber to detox, right? Detox everything out of your colon. You've got the minerals, which kind of basically run all your cells. And you're also adding in usually vegetables and fruits again. So I'll usually pre-cut at the beginning of the week a big salad. It'll be grated beets, grated carrot, I'd cut some kale, cabbage, broccoli, whatever I've got, radish, whatever's seasonal. I'll have it pre-cut in the fridge, and then I'll scoop some out and take it for lunch or have it for dinner. So there'll always be like a nice veggie piece to it. And I find that protein is really important. So I'm sure to have the beans and the lentils or nuts and seeds. I may have some meat. I used to not eat meat. Now I eat a little bit more than I ever did, like poultry or fish usually. But it's changed and evolved. And then I'll have whole grains. They're so important, whole grains. That's where you're getting all your B vitamins, tons of fiber, and you're getting a lot of minerals. So like something like quinoa, amaranth, millet, brown rice, which I love. And it'll be a mix of all of that. It could be raw vegetables, could be cooked. I do a lot of fermented foods, which I think people should start really incorporating. So like sauerkraut, I put that in my salad, pickles. Sometimes I like kimchi. So there's a variety there.
Yeah.
So that's for your gut, pretty much. That's what feeds your probiotics. So if you don't necessarily want to supplement with probiotics, well, you got to feed the bacteria that's already there. So I would use something like fermented foods.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned about the fruits. It's funny because that's exactly what my kids have in the morning. And Ginny and I, we're always commenting that these kids are going to eat us out of a house because fruits are so expensive.
Same problem in my house.
Right. But they love it. Like my kids, they don't get a sugary cereal, which is what most people. Yeah, it's really sad. And literally my son, you could wash an apple. He's 2.5 years old and give it to him. And he's happy as a clam early in the morning. Right.
Oh, and a lot of kids are, because remember, it's called breakfast. Why? It's 2 words, break the fast. So you've been fasting all night, right? Because you've been sleeping.
Yeah.
The first form of energy your brain needs and your body needs, all your cells, the most usable energy is glucose. And that comes through fruit. So it's a great way to transition, break the fast, your breakfast, having a little bit of fruit, because now you've got that sugar that gets, your energy going, and then you can progress from there.
That's right. Now, you mentioned like amaranth and some of the whole grains. Because for me, when I look at eating for your blood type, which is another thing you recommended to me by Dr. Dadamo, I actually have the app. So when I go shopping, sometimes if I want to try something new, I'll see, is it in a void? And I know you had said something to me, which is also very important and for me to mention. You said just use it as a guide, not, it is not written in stone. You said if you grew up with a certain food, even though it says in the book that, it's in a void, your body might be okay with it, right? And just test it out, see how it is. And so how do you, is that what you do as well? Like with some of these grains? Because when brown rice, for instance, for me, I find if I eat too much of it, it can cramp me up, right? But I believe you and I are the same blood type yes, O, right?
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so brown rice is totally fine with you.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on your body too. It depends on the type of brown rice. Again, none of these are hard, fast rules. You have to, there's almost like an intuitive eating sense that we have to kind of incorporate. So if something starts to feel really bad inside, then there's a reason that it's likely doing that, right? So I follow blood type because I feel like I do tolerate the proteins better. But I know that throughout the past 20 years where I've experimented with a lot of different types of eating habits, I know that some of them work better for me depending on where I am in my life. So for example, after having kids, I really did crave more protein because my iron stores had dropped and my mineral stores had dropped because I just gave everything to my baby. So sometimes you'll see that with patients that depending on what's happening or where they are in their life stage, their needs change. And that's why I think the diet does change over the life cycle. not hugely, right? Because when we look at ethnic groups and they eat consistently similar foods, it's very compatible for them. But eventually, we do also encounter points where some foods can be causing we don't need them anymore. So our body responds with a bit of inflammation, and that can manifest with you feeling your tummy feeling off. So it's important to be intuitive and aware of that. If it doesn't feel right, well, there's probably a reason.
It's funny you say that, Vivian, because you got me on this journey. I had an issue with sebaceous cysts, and it's probably for, even before I met you. I just never brought it up to you at the time because I just thought, it's just a pimple that doesn't want to go away and whatever. I just have to deal with it. I actually went to, I had a couple of them removed, literally they cut you open and scoop it out.
Yeah.
And that was their way of dealing with it, right? But because you taught me about being aware of your body and what your body requires and so on, I decided that I'm going to find out what is causing this stuff. You see, and that's how I look at my body and nutrition and food. There's a connection. There's a total connection. And as well, I always tell people we're individuals. So if I say something about me, and even though you and I are both blood type O, we're still different. We're miles apart in our diet and how we react to certain things. With the sebaceous cyst, it took me 25 years. I literally had it for about 25 years. I had it since my 20s. And it was potato. I was eating too much potato. Once I got rid of potato, I got rid of I don't have sebaceous cysts. And when I do eat a lot of potato, guess what? It comes back.
Right. I think it's amazing that you identified that. Potatoes are really interesting food. The fact that you bring that up is really interesting because potato is part of a certain family of foods, plants called the nightshades. And those, for some people, can be very irritating and can cause a lot of inflammation, right? And that's what's probably what was starting off as an inflammation turning into sebaceous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Has there been anything else? I mean, you mentioned the acne. Has there been anything else where you realized from your diet was causing it? Anything else that you want to share?
For myself?
Yeah.
For
anything
sure.
earth shattering? Because for me, that was another.
I definitely know my cognitive function can be improved with my diet. I know that my bowel habits improve considerably with dietary changes, my energy level. And I think it's the case for lots of people. I see massive transformations with diet. Like when I implement diet changes, I see incredible transformations. That's always like the first step. And people just are able to be more in touch with themselves, because often you get so caught up in your symptoms or how you've been feeling for so long, it becomes normal and you think it's normal. And then once you start to modify the diet, you start to feel your true self, right? Because what you eat, what your cells are a reflection of what you eat and what you've eaten the past year, right? Or 3 months, or it's all, they're being repaired, right? You know, your skin cells are sloughing up every 24 hours. All your intestinal cells are turning over every 24 hours.
Oh, really? Right? The actual cells in your gut?
They're always turning over. So
wow.
You need to have protein to make new cells. You need to have minerals to fuel all the enzymatic reactions and enzymes that are in these new cells. You need to have vitamins to fuel that too. So what you eat is what you are. There is no question.
Yeah. Speaking of vitamins, what vitamins do you always recommend to all your patients other than probiotics? Is there such a thing?
Like supplements, you mean?
Yeah, or supplements or vitamins. Is there, probiotic? I know you've always said everyone, because of the quality of the foods.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what would you recommend?
So everyone is so unique, as we said.
Yeah.
But I could say when I look at the general patient population that I have, predominant issues would be inflammation, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the best things for inflammation would be fish oils, right? Or there's also vegan type of fish oil, so you could do that as well.
Is the vegan one as good as the as the
I believe that patients do quite well with it, right?
okay.
Like I haven't seen any adversities. I've seen their inflammation go down. So fish oils are a big one. I'd say vitamin D is the next big one. We live in Canada. We have, 40% of people are vitamin D deficient in the winter. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
40%. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, it is.
Whether you've tested or not, you're more than likely deficient, or you can be. And supplementing with vitamin D is something that people need to strongly consider. We know that it has huge immune boosting effects, right? So if you want to keep your immune system strong, especially in the winter, you want to think about things like that.
Yeah.
So I'd say vitamin D and fish oil are pretty big ones.
Gotcha. It's interesting you say vitamin D, and I'm just going to make a comment and move on. But one of the things that you see a lot of studies, they're saying a lot of people that passed away or had a tough time with COVID, they were lacking in vitamin D. So it's interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Now, with regards to vegan, there are a lot more people now. I have a lot of friends now that are going that route, and even me, I've really cut down my meat intake. I really wasn't a big meat eater to begin with anyway, but I've cut it down even more to the point where we rarely ever cook it at home. And if we do, we'll cook it if we have friends and family over, or in the summertime, it's so much easier to barbecue. And, I don't want to impose my dietary habits on people when they're coming to visit me. Certainly, especially when I still eat meat, right? But I totally support the vegan movement, and it's something that I can see myself doing. And for me, it's not just health, because for blood type O, meat is actually highly beneficial, right? Especially if it's grass-fed and so on and so forth. I feel sorry for the animals. For me, that's the main reason,
It's a hugely ethical choice, right? Like most traditionally, veganism was an ethical type of lifestyle, dietary choice. And what we've seen is that it really supports the planet too, right? Because raising livestock is one of the main causes of pollution and the CO2 emissions.
Yeah, it's like I think they say it's like 80% of the agricultural land is for livestock, but yet they only produce 20% of the world's protein, which is ridiculous. And they said it contributes more to greenhouse gases than the automobiles. That's crazy.
For a long time, nobody really knew that. And now it's come more to the surface. Like people are starting to, there's been a lot of documentaries on it. And there's a lot of research that has come out, and they produce a lot of CO2 emissions, right? And they're the main cause. Eating meat is the main cause.
That's right. Did you ever see that documentary with Woody Harrelson? It just came out just a couple of months ago, and I forgot the name of it, but you have to watch it.
No.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it.
And there was one part of this documentary that really that really made me feel good about where we're going, and that was regeneration and being able to regenerate even a desert, right? Within like I'm talking 2 to 3 years, being able to turn a dry desert into a lush forest. So if you get a chance, you got to watch it. And I'll text you the name if I remember it, but just Google Woody Harrelson, and within the last year it came out, and I watched it probably 3 months ago. It's a beautiful documentary, and everyone should watch it, because if you're concerned about climate change and so on, and one of the things that I'm clear about now is that all the carbon dioxide that we're creating in the world, well, guess who benefits from it? Plants. So if you want to pull down that carbon dioxide, right, grow more plants, right? It
Oh, that's
really,
incredible.
yeah. So getting back to what we were talking about with veganism, in order to have the proper vitamins and nutrients, if someone comes to you and they say, "Hey, I want to be a vegan," what are some of the things you suggest they do or does being a vegan, does it give you all the nutrients and vitamins you need, or do you need to supplement it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So typically vegans are low in certain things, for example, calcium, right? That's always a concern. Zinc, iron, B12, vitamin D, sometimes protein, and essential fatty acids. Those are the main concerns we need to navigate. So it's hard to get B12 from food, right? So most vegans will supplement. And I often recommend that they do B12 and usually a B complex, just to balance things out. They can get a lot of calcium from their diet because calcium's in pretty much anything that's green. So, broccoli, bok choy, kale, all the greens, the brassica family, like, the even in cauliflower, collard greens, mustard greens, they all have lots of calcium. And the great thing about these plant-based calcium sources is that they're very bioavailable. That means you can absorb them really easily, easier than you can from, the more conventional sources like milk.
Gotcha.
So getting calcium is a big deal in veganism, but also tofu is a great source because they fortify it with calcium.
Okay.
It's one of the highest sources of calcium because it's fortified. So you can rest assured that your calcium will be fine if you're having tofu and lots of leafy greens. For the iron, iron is well sourced through grains. So even legumes and beans. So and beets are a great source of iron. So there's great options there. But the recommendation is you have vitamin C with it. So a food that has a bit more vitamin C, like a citrus or a fruit, or you take a bit of a supplement, and that really helps to enhance the iron absorption because the iron in plants is a little bit harder to absorb than the iron in meat. Okay?
Oh, it is. Okay, that's
Yeah, it's a
interesting.
little bit harder to absorb. But that's not the case for calcium, as I said, right? There's also zinc. Zinc is a big one because zinc is important for every cell to work and function. Now, zinc you can get from nuts and seeds. So walnuts, almonds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are a really good source.
And that's good for your prostate as well, right? Pumpkin seeds.
It's amazing for your hormones and prostate health. So you can kind of incorporate a lot of that in your diet, nuts and seeds, to get your zinc. And then protein is important. So they usually encourage like 3 legumes a day, like 3 servings of legume, and a serving's like a cup.
A day?
Yeah, because
that much.
You need or you can substitute with some.
Sorry, you know what? Yeah, we're talking about vegans. Never mind. Yeah, Go on.
They're not having meat.
Yeah.
So you can also put in there, like tofu would be an example of that. You can have a bit of tofu, or the TVP, the more texturized vegetable protein, any kind of vegetable protein. Soy is almost equivalent to meat in terms of bioavailability, how easy it is to absorb and get the amino acids, the actual protein, and turn it into what your body needs to make immune cells and blood cells, etc. So soy is almost equivalent to meat. And then other proteins kind of are a little bit less, but still effective. Like pea protein would be lower in the list, and then it drops, right? Brown rice protein would be lower. But generally, you want to get enough protein. You're supposed to get 10% more protein if you are vegan. You need 10% more because it's harder to absorb and digest. And then we talked about vitamin D, which you'd have to supplement, and essential fatty acids, which you can take the vegan source of omega-3s.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned tofu, and we eat tofu. I mean, my wife is Korean, so that's a staple. And she's really gotten me to like it a lot, just the way they prepare it. we get the non-GMO, we get sprouted, the good stuff, organic. But prior to this, it was there was always some negative press about eating too much tofu. Why? And can you address that? And
Yeah, that's a great question. So the negative press has to do with the fact that tofu is a plant estrogen. It has plant estrogens inside. So the concern is that if we have more estrogen related cancers coming up, should we be consuming something that promotes estrogen, right? Like more plant estrogen based. So estrogen like cancers for women would be breast, right? And for men would be prostate. That's the equivalent.
Gotcha.
So the negative press came from that. Like, if people develop these cancers, should they be eating tofu because it could be increasing their estrogen stimulation? But historically, a lot of the Asian cultures have been consuming it for thousands of years, and it hasn't been an issue. So then the debate became, well, it's likely they don't react that way because they started really young, whereas we're introducing it later. So it's like a higher load of estrogen that's coming upon us, as opposed to somebody who is taking it throughout their childhood because it was just part of their ethnic cuisine. So it's more like related to people at risk of estrogen related cancers, I think. Is there anything else that you were thinking about
With regards to what?
with tofu? That's the main issue that
No, with regards to tofu though, I mean, how important is it to have it non-GMO and organic and sprouted?
Very important, because soy is one of the most heavily sprayed crops, right?
Okay.
Because it comes from soy, like the soybean.
Yeah.
So it's so heavily sprayed, and I think it's really desirable to get it from an original non-sprayed, non-GMO source.
Gotcha. And sprouted. How about the sprouted? Because
Sprouted is great. Yeah.
Do you? And I'll tell you why. My wife and I, we sprout all of our beans, and I notice a big difference. Like, I love chickpea, but if I eat a lot of chickpea without sprouting it, it cramps me up.
Yeah.
Once I sprout it, no worries, right? It goes down beautifully. We love it. In fact, we're starting a business. I don't know if she told you, but sprouted nut business. The website is being made, and we've got some amazing flavors. Like, we've got this walnut bread, and it's sprouted walnuts with date sugar, sea salt, vanilla, and cinnamon. And I'm telling you, Vivian, it is the most. And we dehydrate it. So we sprout it, and then we dehydrate it at a low temperature with that flavor. You can't eat just one. Like, you're gonna grab 2 handfuls, and it's so good for you. And I could eat so much of that because it's been sprouted, right? I know. So do you sprout your beans as well?
Yeah, I sprout nuts. I sprout my nuts and my seeds and my beans. It's really important because they have, most beans and like seeds and nuts, they have these active ingredients inside that are very allergenic.
Phytic acid, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you sprout them, it kind of that goes away essentially. So they become very digestible, right? So sprouting is really important. It decreases, the lectins, because the lectins will break down, which are like these proteins that are really hard to digest, which is probably why, blood type diet,
That's right.
Because it's a low lectin, or they try to avoid lectins because it causes your blood to react. Yeah. So it's really important to sprout things. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Easy to digest. If you have trouble with digestion, you always buy sprouted.
That's right. And you know what, for everyone listening to this, can you explain what sprouting is? Because it sounds like such a ordeal, you know what I mean? But it's so simple. Yeah. Go ahead. What is sprouting?
It's the easiest thing. All you do is you basically soak something for, depending on what it is, for 6 to 12 hours or longer. And then you take it out of the water and then you dry it. And a dehydrator is a great way to do that because it's like a low heat kind of oven almost.
That's right.
And it doesn't damage any of the enzymes because the temperature doesn't go high enough to damage any of the active enzymes or nutrients in the food, depending on where you set it.
Yeah.
And then it re-dries it. But it's already, the sprouting process has, deactivated a lot of those compounds that would have hampered your digestion.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, basically you're just soaking it. For us, we have every Sunday we do chickpea. And so Saturday morning, I soak it until Sunday. I soak it for 24 hours. And I soak it in sea salt. I find it's a better flavor when I soak it in the sea salt. And I read up that it actually helps to neutralize the phytic acid even more.
True. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we soak it and then put it in a pressure cooker. And it's the most delicious. In fact, my kids will eat it just like that with butter and salt.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, that's so great that you're
Yeah.
starting them early.
Oh, yeah. Even my son, when his stomach hurts, he'll go pody, like a podium, right?
Oh, I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. For everyone listening, like a podium is a homeopathic remedy for a tummy ache or tummy upset. In fact, I've got a lady by name of Rose Weinberg that I'll be doing a podcast with, and I did a course with her in homeopathy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because of you, right? I furthered my studies, and so I'm going to be doing something with her. So I'm looking forward to talking to her as well. But I know you're busy, Vivian, and it's coming up to the hour, and you promised me 1 hour. We'll probably have to do this again. But before you go though, can you tell me? Everyone is talking about the new normal. And for me, when I hear people talk about it, most people, the new normal has, for me anyway, it's a negative connotation. For me, the new normal is you got to take care of your body. You got to watch, what you eat. You have to question everything. You have to question, question everything. And especially when it comes to your health. So how do you see the world evolving, and where did we come from, or what have you seen? Because you mentioned that when you did this course, there was only 15 people, in that classroom. So where were we? Where are we now, and where are we going?
So I'm a bit of a glass half full type of person, and I think what's happening is I'd say it in one word. I think it's opportunity. And opportunity is a very powerful word because there's so much potential in opportunity. You don't know where opportunity will take you, but it opens doors that you never imagined. So I really think that, we've been evolving at a slow pace, and now it's kind of accelerating. It's almost like an exponential acceleration, and there's a huge awakening happening too. And if you're ready to listen or want to kind of explore this opportunity, this is a great time for growth and accelerated growth on so many levels, on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, but I think really on a spiritual level. We're at a really critical point in time. And when you tune into all these levels, you're really tuning into what it is to be human. Right? Because we're such multidimensional beings. And once we tune into all those levels and not ignore them, which I think COVID has given a lot of people the opportunity, be it good or bad, to tune into all these levels and question things. But it really comes down to, what do you want to do next, right? It's your choice. As humans, we have choice to do anything. We're here, and that's what we have, free will. And what are we going to do with that free will, and where are we going to take it? That's the opportunity that I'm talking about. So I think there's a lot of great things ahead, actually. I think there's a lot of great realizations that people have made, painful ones for many of us. It's been a really hard time. But remember, whenever things go up or whenever things go down,
Yeah,
which
they have to go up.
COVID, then they go up. Yeah. And that's a really natural thing that happens. It's happening in your body all the time, right? Like your insulin, it goes up, then it goes down. Your cortisol goes up, goes down. Your melatonin goes up, goes down. That's just how life works. That's
It's
how
a cycle. It's a
It's
cycle.
a cycle.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling a little defeated right now, rest assured, this time will pass. This time will pass. And if you're seeing it as an opportunity, you got a ways to go. There's a lot of runway. So
well, that's great.
That's my big, that's how I'm at, where I'm at.
No, that's awesome what you just said there. Do you meditate, by the way?
Yes, I pray actually. I like to pray.
Yeah. Do you say
And
mantra?
meditate.
Okay. Do you say mantras?
Yes,
or anything?
I do. I believe that's very powerful because
Yeah.
you're reconditioning your thoughts. They're extremely powerful. What we say is extremely powerful.
Of course, right? The people don't realize how powerful the word is, and in fact, if you look, there was a doctor, is it Dr. Emoto, the water experiment?
Oh, I love Dr. Emoto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody's got to see that.
Yeah. If people don't, like, there's so much power in your thought and in your words. And there's a new documentary, another one for you to see. It's called Superhuman on Prime.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Superhuman and Prime, and it talks about it. You know a lot of this stuff anyway, but it's always great. I mean, I love this stuff, and like I said, because of meeting you, right? And I've told you this, right? You've opened up my eyes. I question everything. The world. It was like I had shades on, and then I took it off, and it's like, oh my God, right?
Oh.
And so so you got to watch that. And having said that, Vivian, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And, like I said, and I don't say that, what am I trying to say here?
Lightly.
Yeah, I don't say it lightly. Exactly. You really changed everything. And so how do people reach you if they need to, see the most amazing naturopathic doctor?
Oh, you're so wonderful. Before I let people know how to reach me, I want to say thank you to you. I didn't realize I had such an impact, but I know that I come to work every day because I want to help people change like you and like I've changed. And I know there's so much hope and potential. And I thank you so much for all those kind words because you're such a wonderful, wonderful human being. And you're doing so many great things. So thanks so much for doing this and everything you're doing, Amar.
Thank you.
And in terms of reaching me, I practice downtown. I'm at Bloor and Sherburne at the Rosedale Medical Center.
In Toronto?
In Toronto. I also practice in Whitby, where I see predominantly children. In my Toronto practice is family medicine, so it's like adults and children. And I can be reached. You can check out my website. I think that's the best. It's www.downtownnaturopath.com. And I just updated it, so check it out. You can learn a bit more about me there. All my contact information is there. Please email me with any questions. Even if you just don't want to book, but you need to, find out what I do and get a bit more comfortable. I'm always here to talk and offer a complimentary, chat. And our phone number is 416-920-4325. And that's it.
Awesome. And by the way, that is such a good thing, the complimentary chat, because I've sent a couple of friends your way, and they were, it was great that you were able to give them that before they come and see you. So Vivian, thank you so much. Say hello to George and give your kids a kiss. And
you say hello to your family, to Jenny and the kids.
I will. Have an amazing day, and we shall talk soon, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Bye,
take care. Bye-bye.